About a year ago, my wife and I started changing our lifestyle and diet. Even before COVID, we made a decision that we wanted to change what we were eating and how we were eating and when we were eating. And the when is the part I want to talk about. So we started to do something called intermittent fasting without really thinking that's what it was, but essentially that's what it was. We were narrowing the window of time every day in which we ate food. It just meant that we would eat a later breakfast and an earlier dinner and not eat again, which meant that our body was digesting and not digesting at certain particular times in the day. And somehow it's worked out very well for us in health and weight and all that. Well, I'm really not intent on giving a talk about dieting as much as I'm intent on speaking briefly about the idea of self-regulating and self-disciplining. Anytime we do something that regulates or disciplines ourselves, we learn that we're capable of more than we knew we were capable of a minute before. You see that in a kid. When a kid learns a skill for the first time, to ride a bicycle, to throw a free throw shot, to write, to read, anything, there's that moment of knowledge, of self-knowledge, of awareness of the greater and the growing who I am that matters, that builds up the person that we become. So every time we set limits on ourselves, also we have that effect. And I think setting limits in terms of what we aren't willing to do or will choose not to do can be as powerful as what we choose to do. So how does that apply to you and to me? Well, it may be about food, but it may also be about how we spend our time. Maybe we need a little intermittent fasting from news, particularly now. Maybe we need to go back, as I've said often, to news viewing from the 1970s, which is what I've adopted. Wake up in the morning and at a certain point check the news. Usually that's over my coffee, and then leave it. And I don't go to Walter Cronkite in 1970 or whatever it was. I don't go to the news hour or the news again until the evening. In the evening, I don't watch news because I don't want that in my life and my house, the media experience of news. But what I do is I'll read it from certain sources that I rely on and trust to be fairly accurate and fairly unbiased. I don't think that's very easy to come by. But what I'm saying is I have intermittent fasting. I choose when I do what I do, and I choose to fast from that the rest of the day, believing and trusting that the people in my life will let me know if something great or disastrous happened in between. The same might be true and might be said about our use of technology in general. For our kids and ourselves, any age in life, can we do regulated intermittent fasting and make a decision when we're going to use our devices and when we strictly will not use our devices? It may mean, by the way, that we say we won't use them over meals. Many of us have that rule. But maybe it also means certain hours of the day we're going to free up and allow something in that otherwise might be going away in our society and in our minds, which is the freedom to not know and the freedom to not be thinking actively. What happens in those liminal moments between thought and action and constant productivity? Great things. Some of the greatest creativity happens when we're not thinking. That's what Einstein taught us, that his greatest creativity happened when he wasn't thinking. So what happens if we're constantly either thinking or using a device to fill our thoughts? We never have that blank space. We never have the canvas on which to create our own masterpieces. And maybe that's something that's necessary and timely right now. I hope this is helpful.